Hello, it's Mary Beth Shaw from StencilGirl Products. I'm here for my almost live. And I did a little pre-work on this one because there's dry down time and I wanted you to be able to see what the final result is. And I'll have to say, this is the most exciting technique that I have come across lately, okay? I don't know, it's just like every once in a while all the elements click and you realize, yeah, that's what I want to be doing. And that's what happened with this technique. I was, just doom scrolling on Instagram one day and I came across a sponsored ad from Kasia Clark, K-A-S-I-A, Clark with an E on the end. Never heard of her. I clicked on the sponsored ad because she was talking, I don't remember even what the ad said, but it was something that I thought I'd be interested in. I looked at her work. She's an abstract artist out of the UK. Incredible, beautiful work. And she specializes in a lot of transparent layers, which is kind of what I do too. I love layering up transparent items and I make transparent layers all the time that I utilize in my work. And I just gotta say, I was pretty smitten with the idea of this, and so I bought her class. And I don't want to reveal her techniques because that's not right. You guys should go buy her class too because she's a great teacher and I found the class to be very worthwhile. The one thing that for me was the takeaway on it was this product she uses for her transparent layers, and it's called Wet Strength Tissue. I've been seeing it cropping up here within the last 30 to 60 days, and I'm pretty certain it's got to be people that took Kasia's class also because I've never heard of this product. I Googled it and it is made by Carnival and it's sold out of the UK and I couldn't find it locally. I went to Dick Blick. I talked to several of my art store providers. Literally, they couldn't find it. So I ordered, I ordered a ton of it because I just knew I was going to want to play with this process now. And I'll provide links below where you can buy it. And there used to be some providers on Amazon that would package it in smaller quantities because the quantity I bought was 480 sheets of it, which, yeah, I'm sure I'll use those. But not everybody would be interested in buying quite that much. So I want to just give you all the information I have and then you can figure out what's right for you. Let me tell you that the techniques I'm going to show you today, or the technique, it's really just one technique, is one that simply does not work with regular tissue, okay? The regular tissue cannot tolerate the spritzing and the spraying, and it just doesn't work, all right? So that's why the wet strength tissue is pertinent for this. And I, personally like it a lot. So I just thought I'd bring it to you. I suspect, and I'm pretty sure, but I haven't actually done a paper-to-paper test, is with that medical tissue that, like, I've talked about it before. It's the stuff that they put on, like headrests and chiropractors' offices and stuff like that. It probably would hold up for this, but it gets a little weird when it's wet too, so I just don't know. But you might be willing to try that, and that's quite inexpensive. So what I'm going to do is turn the camera and show you how I do this, and then I'm going to show you the results of what I did yesterday, so you can see right away the results that you would get. And I don't know. I had to figure out what to do with stencils with it because Kasia did not use any stencils when she was using it, and I just immediately thought, oh my gosh, need to use stencils. So I'm going to turn the camera and to my desktop, and I've got to change the lighting real quick, and then we will be ready to roll. All right, there's my desktop. Here is some better lighting. This is a piece of the wet strength tissue. This is half a sheet of it, okay? And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I've got a couple stencils with round type motifs that I'm going to use. And then in this little cup, I have that, you know, that Antelope Brown FW ink that I adore. I have some of that in this cup with about half water. I'm going to add just a little bit more water because it got kind of dark when I used it on the other sheets. So I would say about half and half acrylic ink and water. I have also tried this with Distress Oxide, and it works really well with the liquid Distress Oxide. You know, the sprays, or you can take the lid off the spray bottle and put it in a container like this if you wish. All right, so here's the first step. You spray the tissue. And so I think you can instantly see why this would not work with regular tissue. I have a piece of plastic under here to peel it off of later, and this is wet. Now, it already develops some looks of its own and some, kind of want to say wrinkles, but you know, yeah, wrinkles, like wrinkles and pleats and stuff like that. So I'm going to do a little bit of that because I don't want this to be a straight on, full on stencil reproduction thing. I want it to be a little bit less perfect, okay? I'm going to take my ink first, and I'm going to, you can try this different ways. I'm going to brush, just using a chip brush, the ink kind of on the tops of the little areas that I folded, and you can see how it goes down into, you know, the parts, right? I don't want necessarily a full coverage of ink, or maybe you would if you're trying it. This is one of those things that you can do it any which way you want, depending on, you know, how much of the ink you want in your final product. Okay? And it'll just sit there. Once you wet the tissue, it sort of just grabs onto the plastic, and it'll sit there very, very obediently, I might add. And I'm going to just spritz a little bit more water on it, and I'm going to lay the stencils on top. There's one, and here's one on the side. Now, at this point, they're really just sitting on top. What I want is for these stencils to make better contact. So I am going to use a brayer and make sure they've got good contact here with the underneath. Once I get to this place, I usually just walk away and make sure that this dries down overnight. However, I've got a fair amount of ink coming up, so I do have some of that medical paper, and I thought, you know what, I might just blot up some of this. So here you can blot up a little bit, and I'm going to put it up here on the plastic to dry separately. You know, you got to think your ink is acrylic ink, which is why you need to dilute it with water, because if you don't, you know, it's going to turn into plastic and it'll stick to these underneath layers. So, all right, that actually turned out kind of cool, right? I mean, I can certainly use that for collage. All right, so I am going to remove this top sheet, and I'll allow this to dry. Is what I prepared yesterday. All right, so here is, this is the half sheet like we just used, only used vertically, so I used quite a bit of it. And I did exactly the same process, and I'm going to pull it up. Now I did some, you know what, I didn't do exactly the same process. I digress. I used a piece of the wet strength tissue on top also, and I left it dry down overnight. And this is what I got from that one. So then when I pulled that up, I have the stencil, and I'm going to pull up the stencil. And then I had kind of put this together and pleated it. And so now I'm going to, you know, pull it apart, because what happens with that pleating is it allows you to develop some lighter and darker areas within the tissue. So I do like how this looks. I'm going to just be straight with you though. I think I probably would have used less ink and more water. But when you pull it apart, you get these super, super cool results. And any of you who are into making parts for your work, you know, I've been doing this forever. I know there's a million names for it these days. People call it collage fodder. They, you know, I think Tiffany's calling them giblets or giblets. Seth's calling them bits, B-I-T-Z. I just call them parts as parts. And I've been making these forever. And I love this. Now, the reason I say I put too much ink in this is because I actually like this part up here the best, where there's some white in between. That's very fascinating to me. So just a note to self. But I'll tell you, there are some gorgeous parts here, and we got some elements of the stencil in here. I mean, not precisely, but certainly some great elements. And then this piece turned out very interesting as well. So super, super cool. Now here's the other piece I did, and I used this stencil. I was using these big ones because of the size of the tissue, and I think they turned out super cool. Look at this one. This is a Trish McKinney, and I love how we got a little bit of those rounded edges, but then we also got these from the pleats. So I don't know, cool, cool, cool. For me, this is very exciting. I haven't seen anything like this. It is a totally new way to use stencils. And if you love stencils like I love stencils, you are probably going to want to check this out. So I'm happy to be able to show this to you, and I hope that you find something you can use here. When I have used these parts and collaged them into my work, they collage beautifully. They go quite seamless. You know, the edges disappear when you collage them, and I like it all very, very much. So thank you for watching my Almost Live today, and I hope that you found something here that you can use in your own mixed media practice.